Okay, so today we're going to discuss about the natural selection, which is including three different types of natural selection. So the mechanism under natural selection have the stabilizing selection and directional selection and destructive selection. So each one of this happen is due to the environmental changes is occur. So when we're talking about the natural selection, bear in mind it is due to the changing of the environmental factor. So when the environmental is changed, then only the individual with the desired trait will capable to survive and reproduce in a higher rate. And when they reproduce in a higher rate, which means that particular characteristic will have possibly to pass down to the next generation, causing the frequency of the generation change. Okay, so if you look at the diagram here, the black color is the original population, while the red color is the population's frequency after the selection is done. So based on different outcome, we can classify three main type of natural selection. If the phenotype which is able to survive and reproduce to pass down the characteristic to the next generation is in one directional or in one extreme phenotype, it is called directional selection. If for both extreme phenotype, it will go to the destructive selection, while if the favorable phenotype is the intermediate phenotype, then they will be stabilizing selection. Okay, so if you further go into the graph, so this is how the graph of the stabilizing selection is look like, and this is the graph how the directional selection is look like, and this is the graph how the destructive selection is look like. So each one of this is actually represents the changes that occur to the frequency of the phenotype itself after the selection is done. Okay, after the selection is done. So we're going to discuss more detail in how to draw the graph in the next video. Okay, so in this video, we're going to go into the definition of each type of this characteristic, and also who are the favorable phenotype and who are the non-favorable phenotype. So for stabilizing selection, you can see that the selection pressure is against the this particular location, which is the extreme phenotype, and their favorable phenotype is the intermediate phenotype, and the non-favorable phenotype is both extreme phenotype. Okay, so when the individual in the intermediate phenotype, because they are more favorable, which means it will have a higher chance for them to survive in the environmental change. And when they survive, they were able to carry out the reproduction successfully. So the offspring will definitely also carry the similar, will have a higher chance to carry the similar characteristic, which is with their parent, causing the frequency of the intermediate phenotype increase. While for those with non-favorable phenotype, you can see that they are less favorable. So the chances for them survive will be low. When they are unable to survive, can they undergo reproduction? The answer is also very low. When they are very low, after several generations, the potency of this particular phenotype remain in the population will be very much less, causing the extremely reduced numbers in the organism or the individual with extreme phenotype. And what is the consequences of this is the frequency for the intermediate phenotype individual increase, the frequency for the extreme phenotype individual is reduced, and at the end it causes the extreme phenotype eliminate from the population, which eventually reduce genetic variation. So stabilizing selection in this case, you can see that the gene pool is being narrower. It indicates the reduce of the genetic variations. Okay, directional selection is called directional selection because they are shift. If you look at the diagram here, you will notice that the original population and also the population after the selection, it shows the shift of the location from one to the second to the extreme phenotype location. So they are shift the gene pool. That's why they are called directional selection. They are favorable to one extreme and non-favorable to intermediate and another extreme. Intermediate and another extreme. So what happened is the favorable extreme phenotype will have higher chances to survive, higher chances to reproduce successfully, higher chances to pass down the phenotype to the next generation, causing the frequency for the favorable phenotype to be increasing in the next generation. While the extreme phenotype, which is actually the non-favorable phenotype, less likely to be survived, less chances to reproduce, frequency of the non-favorable phenotype will also decrease, causing the whole gene pool to shift from by to the direction with favorable phenotype. So this will also can reduce some of the genetic variation because they're causing the elimination of some of the extreme phenotype that originally present in the population. Okay, disruptive selection is referred to the favorable in both extreme phenotypes. So this kind of selection is the one that can lead to the speciation easier. Okay, so it is act against the intermediate phenotype. So individual with the intermediate phenotype is less likely to survive, less chances to reproduce, meaning that frequency will reduce from the next generation. Okay, favorable phenotype will be the one with the higher chances to survive, higher chances to reproduce successfully, meaning that the chances to pass down the phenotype to the next generation is increasing, causing the frequency increase. So this is what you have to mention in your writing. Okay, so they eventually can create more, or they will act by mutation or by the trigger of the environment, they can increase the genetic variation. And if let's say the gene pool is separating into two separated gene pool, it will eventually lead to the speciation. Okay, so that is the basic introduction about the natural selections.